lot of businesses that were closed. We simply sat around these businesses and protected them as they were closed. So actually, even though we had a decrease in some other line items or items, our contacts getting out in the community were higher because we were putting more miles on. We do a foot patrol of all Lamar's schools. We continue to do that as the school reopened. Each patrol officer walks through a school every day. We've began to pick up again on our after-hours walkthroughs. Any business that's open after 10 p.m., we get out of the car and we walk through. That includes Floyd Valley Hospital. One thing we didn't do last year and we're going to pick up this summer is business meetings and contacts. We will physically walk into every business in the community, ask how things are going, update our contact lists, and to see how things are going for those folks. We had our third annual Shop with a Cop. I'd like to mention that all funds for that and officer time is donated, and this year we took 20 kids shopping. Things that we're going to pick up this year that were canceled last year because of COVID, our Citizens Academy, we'll do that in this fall. We'll pick up again with the Coffee with the Cops. We just had our first Youth Academy last weekend, which was a major success. Jumping down to the budget and grants funding, I did highlight school resource cost share. We are in our second year of a 3-year agreement with the individuals that are helping with that commitment. I will revisit with them this summer, and I'm pretty confident that they're going to continue with that, and whereas that will pay for a majority of our school resource officer. Page 5, kind of a statistical overview. Our complaints investigated by officers are actually up from 2019, while all the other items are really down. Our traffic stops are probably 1,000 down. There was a time there where it was a ghost town. There was only 25% of the population out there driving. That's DOT statistics. That's why those numbers are down. Less traffic stops. I'd like to mention that 75% of all traffic stops do result in a warning. We do not stop folks for revenue source. It's to fix bad driving habits. Our arrests are down a little bit from last year. Our accidents, I believe, are down 51, which is good, but again, less traffic. Continuing through page 5, lists our training that each officer does, either monthly or off-site locations. And then lastly, page 6 and 7, I had mentioned accidents were down 51. Our citations and warnings are down about 1,000. Our arrests are down about 92 compared to 2019. And our calls for service on page 7 is down as well with all categories except community policing. For those of you interested in animal complaints, more folks were home this year, so less dogs got out, I think. So we had 173 animal complaints and only 39 impounds. So that would be down from the previous year as well. Page 8 kind of breaks down the complaints and incidents. Again, these numbers are up. I would say this year we've had a decrease in property crimes and an increase in crimes against persons. Crimes against persons might be sexual assaults, domestic abuse, all things kind of tied with COVID a little bit. We had a lot of folks that were cooped up in their homes that maybe affected some moods this year. And lastly, I just added a page with some pictures of some of our community policing photos from 2020. We didn't have a lot going on this year with us getting out, but I did include those items on the last page. So in a nutshell, that's it. We're down this year in a couple items. We're up on a couple others. I think once this fall hit, we're kind of back to where we were pre-March of 2020. We're back up to speed with what's going on in the community. So even though some places are still technically closed.
questions for Kevin?
Good report, Kevin.
Thank you.
I want to share with you, Kevin, that Mike and I was in a meeting this morning with Dr. Wendt, who was on the program, and I did ask the question about how the officer in the school full-time is working out. Nothing but good compliments, not only from the kids.
I don't think the principals would allow you to pull him out of the schools at this point. He's extremely beneficial to them.
And even the teachers and the principals. Nothing but positive, so I think that was a very good move, Kevin.
I agree.
I also want to say this, that, and I know that many of you know it, but it's certainly worth repeating, and that is that, to be the safest city, the second safest city in the state of Iowa is quite a reward. When you stop and think about it.
It is. But it wasn't just us. It's the people that live here. It's all the departments. It's fire, EMS. It's public works. It's all of us.
It's all of us. It goes back to teamwork again and everything. But I got to be honest with you, that is a huge award.
I agree.
That a lot of people just take for granted. Keep up the good work.
Kevin, off the top of your head, and I know we kind of hear whispers about federal and state desires to have an impact on local police policies and practices and things like that.
Right.
I imagine you and your staff are tracking that more carefully than any of us.
Yeah, I had a couple of notes here, and I didn't even bring it up. Under the training, I underlined 5 training topics that are now mandated by both federal government and the state of Iowa that officers are required to have training in. We did that prior to the mandates. We were doing de-escalation training. We were doing unbiased policing. We were doing all that before. So I'll give credit to Justin Dale, who's in charge of the department training, and he selects those topics. And we're ahead of the game. We're doing them. We're hitting the mandates, and if there's more, we're going to do them as well.
I guess I would also ask, as you keep track of those kind of things, and I certainly applaud your being proactive in that, but if there are things being discussed or coming down the pipe that would require some community advocacy to impact that, I guess we'd like to hear it from you or your crew so if it comes up.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
Any other questions for Kevin? Good job, Kevin. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
The next individuals, I should say, on the program is our economic development people, namely Neil Adler and Mary Reynolds. Neil?
I'm going to pass these out. They aren't part of the presentation today, but sometimes I stop and realize that when we talk about industrial parks and different things like that, not everybody has a good idea of what that looks like. So this is an aerial of our 3 industrial parks currently, and shows you the amount of activity as well as the number of lot sales that are taking place.
Thank you.
I would say not everybody, sometimes I wonder if anybody looks over the left shoulder when they leave town, because I get asked questions about things going on out there. So thanks for the time today, and we'll just take a couple minutes, I will anyway, to just to point out some initiatives on the part of the LBIC and give you some information regarding what's been happening and where things are maybe looking to go. So inside the front cover, I always talk about with economic development how 80 to 85% of the new growth is tied to existing businesses and industries. It seems startling, but that's the basis for any area you talk about across the country. So obviously it's key and vital that we keep communication levels up high with our industries and businesses. And from that we garner what we look at as initiatives that we should maybe be undertaking. So the first thing, couple things I've got there, first one is child care. That's been talked about for several years in Lamar's, but never has really gotten hold. So what's happened is with the CARES funds, we've got a grant working through Simcoe, and the LBIC input some financial assistance also for this to do a serious deep dive into a study of child care and the needs that there are in this community and how to address them. As you can see on here, that the study is planned to begin in August and will be completed by the end of the year. So we'll be looking forward to that information and seeing where that takes us into the future. The thing we've been working on for several years, obviously, as the whole community has been, is affordable housing. Hopefully you all understand that the LVIC had areas of land that we decided to use for affordable housing, and we set up a 5-year forgivable loan for builders and contractors, which really helped incentivize the over 100 apartment units that are currently out in the industrial park area behind, and the business park area out by the airport. So we'll continue with that, and what we're going to expand into this year, currently going up are the first of some townhomes. So it kind of adds a little bit more depth to our portfolio of housing offerings here in the community, and those are designed to be affordable again. Those are numbers that we have to work on with studies that are taken and what is feasible, but we've had some luck so far with the developers in staying close within our guidelines so that they get some payback on the purchase of the land, discounted. So it's been working well, and we could continue to look forward to using that in the next year or so. Also, entrepreneurism is a big other piece of the puzzle for economic development, growth. We had several things go on this year. As I'm saying that, is the LVIC along with Northwest Iowa Development, which is the 4 counties north of Plymouth County and Lamar's. The economic development group established up there. We developed a Shop Where I Live site, so it's an online market. We all know that more and more shopping is done online. We thought that this year was really kicked in the rear with the COVID. And so we really encouraged our businesses to get an online presence. So we established an online market to which they could get a presence on at no cost to them. And currently there are 88 or 85 businesses in this area that are up on the site. So I encourage people to take a look at the Shop Where I Live Northwest Iowa site. Since that time, the state of Iowa heard about some of these areas that were doing what we were doing, and they stuck $500,000 into doing a statewide online shopping site. And so our members who've joined on here can climb aboard onto the state side at no charge to them also. So it's a great benefit. I will be the first to admit that it's not been as successful as we had hoped. For some reason, it's an uncomfortable situation for a lot of people, but we're encouraging the best that we can and trying to get them as much assistance as they can to gain a site and understand how much buying is taking place. Yes, Mike?
Neil, do you have a sense for what portion of the 85 are in this zip code? Or is that the whole 5 counties?
That's actually 4 counties in Lamar's,
Right.
and we have the most sites of any area.
Good.
I believe last time I counted, Miriam,
About 18,
I
round
was going to say close to 20 out of the 80-some.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've done well here. Staff did a very good job of reaching out and getting businesses online and ready to market.
Seems like it could be higher, couldn't it, though?
Absolutely,
Sure.
yeah. Moving to the next page, there's a couple more things for entrepreneurs that are being worked on, and this is in association with the Iowa West Coast Initiative, which is a 3-county regional group, Monona, Woodbury, and Plymouth County, that work together mainly on entrepreneurism events. And we hired this year through a grant process, we hired for the next 2 years an entrepreneurial community navigator who actually will be someone with boots on the ground who will help identify entrepreneurs, make sure that they're aware of all the resources available to them, get them in contact with competitions, and so on and so forth, and get them out in the marketplace. So we hope that this individual, who is an entrepreneur herself, will become very successful in guiding us down the road. Now, tied to that is we're doing a study right now to determine the feasibility of an innovation center. And as you can see there, we hope to provide space and equipment for technology startups interested in software development, robotics, automation, as well as commercial kitchen for startups for food tech. So again, it's a gathering point for entrepreneurs. It would be in the city of Sioux City, obviously, as it's kind of the central point. But we hope we can make this happen. We've hired an agency to come and do a feasibility study to see if it makes sense here. If so, if it can carry its own load. And that'll be ongoing throughout the rest of this year to find out if we have the initiative to do that. The way that we come up with these initiatives is a lot by gaining information from communication and discussions with business leaders, our industry leaders. And a lot of that is done in conjunction with the state of Iowa, Iowa Economic Development Authority, and Mid-American Energy, who annually structure and set up visitations with a majority of industries. This past year, there were 800 visits done in, I think, 60 or 70 some counties across the state. And then that information was all compiled to get a sense and feel as to how the industries felt about not just the state of Iowa, but the local community as to how it's responding and its effectiveness and how it provides the necessary infrastructure and so on to really charge their businesses forward. You can see for the next 3-4 pages, I've got just bits and pieces that I pulled out of the study, and then talk about what it shows for just the Lamar's businesses. For example, the primary product service life cycle in Lamar's, every industry indicated their products and or services were growing, which obviously is key. Next step is maturing, when they start to slow down. So we're happy that they're still providing new services and products and plan to do so for the next several years. So that shows the strength in our industries. 1 to 3, 1/3 of the local industries here plan to expand within the next 3 years, which probably should get some attention. Preliminary estimates of the combined investments are approximately $12 million right now over the next several years. So we can look forward to that, continuing growth. Primary products and services continue to grow, as I mentioned. That's the next page. And it means that they're going to be introducing new products again and continue to expand out and grab more of the market share, which is a positive, obviously. We did find out that in exportation, 3 of our industries are exporting right now. 2 of them are starting to slow down just a little bit. Not certain why that is. It maybe had some effect with COVID this year. The other one is stable with the amount of exportation they're doing in business. Then we come to a couple pages that is a nice quick look at for you to take a peek at, and it talks about service and how the services are rated by our industries and business leaders here in town. And it also talks about infrastructure, so it gives a heads up to the community. So on the first page, the community assets, obviously the 2 gentlemen and the 3 gentlemen in the back will be pleased to know it's ranked by 1 through 7 scale, 7 being the highest. So police protection is 6.8 overall, fire protection 7, and ambulance paramedics 7. So that's about as high as you can get for services, and we should be all proud of that and feel very comfortable with what's happening there. You can see as you go down the list a little bit, child care is close to a 5, so we identified that still is a real issue and a concern here, and we plan on addressing that with that survey that we're going to do and get started with that. So you can take a peek through there wherever you would like to see. I won't go through all of those for you, but obviously it covers education, community colleges, taxing, and so on and so forth. It gives you a good feel and sense for what the industry leaders are talking about. The next page is the infrastructure piece. And again this is where you learn if they're looking to increase, stay about the same as far as usage goes for different infrastructure, which is good for us to have a good sense of. And it looks like about 1/3 of the businesses are going to be increasing a lot of our infrastructure needs as far as waste removal, sewer, water, and so on. I will make a correction, but not really a correction. I will say that they did give electricity a bit of a downward bump, but at that particular time that we were going out making surveys, there have been several interruptions in electrical usage. They identified that to substations and got that corrected immediately, but right when this took place, that's why they got a little bit of a negative nudge to it. Next page shows workforce inflow and outflow, which everybody seems to become somewhat interested in. These are the latest numbers that we have available. So I'm just going to hit some highlights on that. The total number of jobs reported in Lamar is 8,300. 943 new jobs were created over a 7-year period through 2018. As the graph points out, 2,313 more employees come into town every day for work than employees that leave town for work. One that I found interesting was that 63% of the jobs in Lamar's are filled by workers coming in from outside Lamar's. That seems like a pretty high number, but that adds to the obvious gain in population by about 2,300 every day. I wanted to point out also workers earning more than $3,333 per month, which actually is $40,000 a year. Of the workers coming into Lamar's for work, 59% of them are earning more than $40,000 a year. Of those staying in Lamar's to work, 56% are earning more than $40,000 a year. But those that leave town for jobs outside, 45% of those workers are leaving Lamar's for work every day. So obviously we have a little bit higher wages here, and we've always anticipated, and that just supports that. And then 70% of the jobs in Plymouth County are in Lamar's. Next couple pages, just more detailed information you can pull off of that graph, but I'm not going to go through that. If you have any questions, I'll certainly answer. I did want to take just a minute to note one thing. This year, the LBIC sold the last parcel of ground in Cleese Industrial Park. Cleese Industrial Park was the first industrial park purchased and developed by the LBIC in partnership with the city of Lamar's. The assessed valuations of improvements in this 80-acre parcel total over $25 million, and the businesses in Cleese Industrial have created over 300 jobs. So I think the investment was good. We've done very well with it, and I applaud everybody that's been served on the LBIC and serving now for making good and smart decisions. With that, unless you have any specific questions for me, I'll step aside and let Mary talk a little bit about Main Street. Dick, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You know, the $40,000, does that include overtime?
That would be, no, I don't believe it does, Dick.
We got a lot of industries here that run overtime.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
So your map here, Neil, little guy in the corner, that's Henches, right?
South. Yeah.
Behind Henches,
Yes,
when I came on the council, was the Beef of America Lagoons.
correct.
So this whole page is new in 20 years, 20 plus years.
Yeah, at the very top in the middle of the picture, you see that it used to be a sugar